Hey guys, so I haven't sharpened my knife in a very long time, probably like a year and a half, maybe even 2 years. So I thought this is a good opportunity for me to finally sharpen my knife. So I have a very standard chef knife that I use probably 3 or 4 times a week. I cook dinner. I'm not a professional chef by any means. So it's still sharp, it still functions, and just I can't cut through my chicken skin, or I'm having trouble cutting through like a nice piece of tomato. So I'm just gonna go ahead and touch up my knife for the first time in quite a while. So I thought it'd be fun for you guys to watch and tune in. The first thing I'm gonna do is just check to see where I'm starting off with. So I'll take a piece of paper, cut through, and see what I got to work with. So as you can see, it still cuts through paper fine, but it catches on little points here and there. So what I'm going to do is just inspect the knife to see what I got. And I don't know if you guys can see this, but you can see there's like little chips here and there. And I'm going to use a rough stone first to grind that all out. So the first stone I'm going to use, this is a diamond rough stone. I'm going to try using this first. This isn't the coarsest stone I have, and I'm going to see how this works first. If I feel like I need to use a rougher stone, then I'm going to go ahead and switch over to my roughest stone I have, which is a 220 grit. But normally this should be enough, so I'm going to give this a shot first. So what I want to do is I want to make sure that I keep inspecting as I sharpen my knife. As I'm sharpening, I want to make sure that the chips are going away. If they're not, then I'm going to switch over to the rougher stone. But I think for now, this stone is actually doing a pretty good job. So I'm going to keep working with this stone. Now one thing to note is that the chips in my knife were very, very small, so I don't have to worry about doing it in 2 different processes. If the chip was a lot larger, what I would do is focus on grinding the chip out first at a very different with a very different technique. Now one thing you want to remember and always keep in mind, you want to do all that you can on the rough stone, and that'll just make it so much easier when you move on to your medium stones and your fine stones. If you don't set up a good base with your rough stone and you go ahead and move on, you're going to eventually end up coming back to the rough stone. So make sure you do everything you can with your first rough stone. Alright, so now I think I got to a point where I've grinded down the chips. I've also made sure that the knife is sharp, and I'm checking for a burr constantly. So now that I have a burr all along the edge with the first stone, I can move on to my second stone. And at which point I'm going to use a medium stone. I have a few options here. I haven't really decided which one I want to use yet. At this point it really doesn't matter too much in the sense that they're all going to work. But you can play with the different stones and see which one feels best for you. When you're sharpening a knife, it's really about feel, but also test the edge, right? See what works best for your specific knife. So I'm going to play around with a couple of stones that I have and see which one I feel like using today. So the first stone I have here is a Naniwa 800 grit. It's one of my favorite stones. It produces a nice creamy sediment. It feels really nice when I use it, and let's see how it works for my knife. Now when I'm using one of these medium stones, I'm just starting to refine the edge. So what I'm doing is, of course, I'm checking for the burrs to build up. But since I already got a burr with the first stone, it's not as important. Now what I'm looking to see is to make sure that the edge is consistent, and as I work on the stone, it's actually polishing out the rougher scuffs from the rough stone. So I want to keep working as evenly and consistently until the edge is more and more refined, more and more polished. So this stone is actually working really nicely, but just for fun, why don't we try using the other stone that I have? So this next stone I have is a sharpen 2000 grit. It is a little bit finer than the last one. I haven't used this stone in quite a while, so let's hope that it works really nicely. But from what I remember, I do like this stone a lot as well. Since I'm home, I just want to make sure everything's clean, so I keep wiping down the table. This is actually my dining table. And finally, I'm going to be using my Kitayama 8000 grit as my finishing stone. This is actually the only finishing stone I have today, so this is what I'm going to use. But luckily, this is what I like to use, so let's see how it turns out. Now remember, when you're using a finishing stone, as you all know, make sure you press a lot lighter. You don't need to crush the edge that you just created, okay? If you crush your edge, your knife is not going to perform as well as it should. Alright, so now that I'm pretty happy with the polish on my knife, let's see if it's better than when I first started. I'm just going to use the same piece of paper and cut through and hope that it's a lot smoother than when I first cut the piece of paper. It's definitely a lot smoother, there's a lot less resistance, and more importantly, it doesn't catch anymore. So I think I did a pretty good job with knife sharpening, and I'm very excited to use my knife. Again, I haven't sharpened it in like maybe close to 2 years. So I'll have a good lunch today. I'll see you guys later.